Joe Dombrowski. Now, we all know the Virgil stories. We all know the crazy reputation that goes along with it. But tell me what stands out about this concept put together by our friend Joe Dombrowski.
It's funny, when I originally heard about it, I was so intrigued because I'm like, man, I wonder if this is going to be about how ridiculous Virgil is at these autograph shows and signings and stuff. Or is this going to be like, like a flowery, trying to paint Virgil as a good guy piece, where you just basically go by his word and do a little interview with him and, he makes up his own stories and so forth. But no, it's not. It's an awesome idea by Joe Dombrowski, and it's just great because basically, as he talks about, he had a horrible experience with Virgil. I mean, he knew the Virgil stories, but he was next to him at a couple shows, and he had some horrible experiences with him. And this is literally about those stories, which is just dead on and perfect.
Joe Dombrowski. Joe, thank you for coming back. The Legend of Virgil and his traveling merchandise table. What a anticipatory feeling I think the whole entire wrestling universe has for anything that involves Virgil in a project like this. But why Virgil and why his traveling merchandise table?
Fate chose me for this project rather than the other way around. I'd encountered Virgil a couple of times in my travels over the past 12 years, but for whatever reason, 2014 and into 15 became the era that me and Virgil were destined to have our paths intertwine. I went down to the annual WrestleCon convention that happens every WrestleMania weekend. Of course, last calendar year was in New Orleans, and out of an entire room filled with wrestling vendors and guests doing signings and local promotions and promotional booths and everybody that was there, I could have been next to anybody, but somehow I wound up next to, and I had to be subject to Virgil's constant Virgilness that was that just permeated from him. And what shocked me was people were actually coming up to him, and they were plopping down the $20 or $30. They were getting the autograph. They were paying extra for the picture, and I wasn't sure if these were just tried and true late 80s, early 90s WWF fans, or if these purchases were being made ironically. I honestly didn't know. But of course, anytime he needs to do a photo op, who's got to hold the camera phone for him? It's me, because I'm right there. Anytime I'm talking to somebody at my table and I drop a name that sounds familiar to him, he's got to chime in on the conversation. And so on and so forth. And I figured 2 days next to Virgil, well, that was enough. But then I arrived at Steel City Con up here in Pittsburgh 4 months later. Felt like 6 months that weekend. I'm filling out the form so I can be a vendor at Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh. And the question on the form reads, what is the nature of the merchandise of your table? And as I'm writing wrestling, I'm thinking to myself, they're going to put me next to Virgil. They're going to put me next to Virgil. They're going to put me next to Virgil. Lo and behold, I arrive and I'm next to Virgil for now 3 days in a row. This is 24 hours over a 3 day span. I am next to Virgil and I have to listen. And at WrestleCon, at least our backs were to each other. We were kind of an L shape with our tables, but here we were side by side, so I heard everything. And not only did I hear the amazing stories that he would tell everybody, that he was in 17 WrestleManias. He main evented WrestleMania 4 in ring. It was a tag match. the millions of dollars he made on his contract, the way he would bury, the more modern day talents. Whenever I would promote my Finding Zach Gowen documentary about the life story of Zach Gowen, Virgil would always chime in and explain that Zach wasn't the youngest guy signed to WWE. Virgil was, which is a moot point because neither one of them were. I believe it was actually probably Rene Dupree. But he just has to get those 2 cents in and be relevant and be part of the crowd. I watched him kind of carny people out of the crowd, yell out their T-shirts, "Hey, CM Punk, come get a picture, come get some old school," and charge them these outlandish prices. And if they wouldn't pay, as soon as they walked away, he would badmouth them. And he would use very colorful language that I'm not going to repeat on this program. I would watch him make very inappropriate comments of a sexual nature. I know how long he claims his penis is. That's something. So just like all this together, just this massive swarm of lies and condescension and smarminess and rudeness and delusional nature that just altogether was the most frustratingly irritating and unintentionally hilarious thing that I may have ever been unfortunately subjected to. And after all of this, I felt like I had PTSD. People would come up to me, you got to make a DVD about this, right? Like, no, that's not going to happen because that would involve speaking to him and spending time with him. So that won't take place. But again, fate. That January, which is now 5 months after Steel City Con, I see him at a local event. And I concede, you know what? I have to do this. So I get his information, and we arrange an interview. And that's why and when I set out to expose, reveal, and give to the masses for their own interpretation the legend of Virgil and what he's been doing today.
Awesome. Now, that's exactly what I was very, very curious of, if you were going to get into his bad reputation at these autograph signings and these shows. And it's funny because when I contact people to come on this show, we never, pay them to be on. We just offer them to promote anything they want. And with Virgil and with one other wrestler who shall remain nameless at this time, but Virgil, he's like, how much do you pay? Blah, blah, blah. Talking to me about money. I was like, no, we don't pay. And then all of a sudden, boom, no, he's not interested. So it's just funny to hear that about Virgil and a little bit of history that we had with Virgil. But on this DVD, is there a long-form interview with the man?
And I will mention very quickly that is not the first time I've heard a story about charging for interviews like that. And that was actually the basis of Sam Roberts starting the Lonely Virgil web movement, because Virgil wouldn't give him an interview. But I did get a longhand interview with Virgil, which means, of course, yes, I had to pay a lot of money. But it's very well worth it. It's the most surreal and absurd setup possible, okay? This interview emanates from Virgil's apartment here in suburban Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Our setting is we are both sitting behind the infamous traveling merchandise table of Virgil. And we proceed to cover all the bases. We talk about his run in the World Wrestling Federation. We talk about his time as a member of the NWO. We talk about his views on the wrestling business, past and present. We talk about all of the wacky Virgil stories, the 17 WrestleManias and the penis sizes and all the ridiculous urban legends that, let's be honest, Virgil has pretty much created on his own about Virgil. And I will get a confirm deny or a true false. Did this happen? Did you say this? We will talk about his propensity to show up at flea markets and random expos that have nothing to do with wrestling and the New York City subway. And we talk about Lonely Virgil, and we talk about his critics and his haters, and everything that encapsulates what Virgil was and certainly is today.
Well, Joe, here you go, because I got the DVD Easter egg for you right here, and I'm going to take you back to 2002, the Freehold Raceway Mall in Central New Jersey, Freehold, New Jersey to be exact. A young Chad of the two-man power trip of wrestling, maybe not so young, but walking with his younger brother through the Freehold Raceway Mall, through a baseball card show, anticipating meeting the living legend Larry Zbyszko, when we turn the corner and encounter former WWF superstar Virgil, who is sitting there with a little color TV with a VCR, and I believe it was SummerSlam 88 that was playing on the TV that looped into SummerSlam 91 and all his greatest hits, which I think was those two matches back and forth. And all we did is say, hey, there's Virgil. He said, hey, guys. We said, hey. He said, what's your brother's name? I said, we're good, man. We don't want a picture. No. What's your brother's name? It's Doug. Right, Doug? Here you go, man. Doug starts walking away. He goes, hey, bro, that's going to be 15. They're like, 15? 15 what? And he goes, that's $15, man. I wrote your brother's name on a picture. I can't sell it now. And I said, you know what? Here, Virgil. I think I had 16 in my pocket. Here's $15, Virgil. Walked away. He then told us about how the NWO reformation in 2002 was going to have Virgil included, and he was going to debut at WrestleMania. I don't believe that happened. And we were ever so conned by the man, Mike Jones, Virgil, at the Freehold Raceway Mall. That's 2002.
I mentioned Sam Roberts a minute ago, who, for those that don't know, is part of the Sirius XM Opie radio family. Very well known. And he had started the Lonely Virgil website after being big leagued by Virgil, and after watching Virgil big league and con others, and Sam directly compares Virgil to the would-be musical artists that stand in the middle of Times Square and give out their free CDs, and then offer to sign it, and then they sign it, and then they ask for $10. Well, wait, you said the CD was free. Yeah, but I signed it. I put your name on it. It's $10. I can't give it away to anybody else now. It's exactly the metaphor he makes, and I don't know that I've ever heard anyone else line up with that metaphor as succinctly and perfectly as your experience was. And the thing is, too, a lot of people think Virgil is a victim. They think that he is homeless, or they think he's poor. And having spent a day in his apartment, he's not rich. He's not in the $1 million man palatial estate, but he's not suffering. He's got nice furniture. It's kind of weird that he doesn't own a cell phone. But other than that, everything's in order in the life of Virgil. He's got some nice lighting. He's got, it's not a dump at all. It's cleaned up. Takes care of it. Of course, Virgil's apartment is a shrine to Virgil. I'd like to point out there are pictures of himself all over the walls. Some of you listening probably don't believe me, but you can see it on the DVD. There are photos of Virgil on covers of magazines or programs. Basically, every WrestleMania that he worked that had a celebrity, that celebrity has found himself or herself in a photo with Virgil, for better or worse. So it was really odd for me to step into the man's apartment, being there and knowing this is not going to turn out very positive for all intents and purposes. It was pretty interesting.
Virgil, a.k.a. Vincent, who was a big part of the indie scene in the late 90s. I'm not sure when that video was, but he was fighting 3 men.
Virgil Vincent was booked at an independent event in Cleveland, Ohio, probably sometime around 1998 or so. And the company that had booked him was not a very professional operation to begin with. And I speak from personal experience because one of the people there ended up being a future business partner of mine, and which is a whole other DVD project for years down the road. But basically, Virgil, and I'm not going to point any fingers because, truthfully, everybody's probably wrong in this situation. Virgil had his superstar-type demands as far as he wanted his money at a certain point in a certain way. And the 3 parties that you saw in the clip didn't take kindly to that. Things took a very personal and inappropriate tone between those discussions, between the Virgil side and the side of the 3 other guys, which I should clarify that the 3 other guys, in addition to being Virgil's opponents, were also the promoters in the front office. So therein lies your conflict. You're going to argue about money, and things get very personal and very disrespectful very quickly, but now there's going to be physicality in a ring later on. And I think everybody was ready for something to explode, and something certainly did. And what we saw was Virgil pretty much have his way with 3 grown adult males at once in a fight. And as much as I judge and criticize and goof on Virgil, and a lot of it deserving, that's pretty freaking cool.